You'd think at some point I would stop talking about dating and I would actually go on a date. However, that sounds too easy, and the microphone is in my apartment, so I'm just going to go for another 10 minutes on dating. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Thank you for joining us. For those of you wondering, no, I'm not a guest host today. I just no longer have any facial hair of any variety. I I don't know how I look with it yet, but I'm sort of stuck with it until my beard grows back in, which it will grow back in aggressively because that is how my facial hair works. My hair, not so much, because why wouldn't my hair on my head betray me? That is all part of the magic of being in your 30s. It's a wonderful time. As I was reminded this weekend, when I was 17, there were people who were 10. That was a thing. It was a very funny conversation with somebody who reminded them reminded themselves that math, that's in fact how math works. It's 6 minus 5 is always 1, 7 minus 7 is 0. That's how that works. Anyways, I felt compelled to do another 10 minutes on dating because I spend far too much time on social media when I'm not working or acting, and my god, advice abounds on the interwebs as to how one should go about dating. Now, we talked in my last episode on 10 more minutes on dating about our young Mr. Freddie Piazza, who had what I thought was sort of wonderful advice in terms of being mystical and being up his advice. The mystical part, I'm not as sure. I'm not sure if the ladies are as into Gandalf as perhaps the gentlemen are. And I certainly know that Gandalf is into gentlemen. That's not a slight. Sir Ian McKellen is, I believe, if somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, Sir Ian McKellen is, in fact, a waver of the rainbow flag, a marcher of the Pride Parade, a card-carrying member of the LGBTQIA plus community, and a wonderful actor, I might add. It just so happened that him being gay was more relevant to that sentence than him being the marvelous actor that he is. But anyways, why do I bring all that up? Because dating has not only remained as confusing as it has in bygone eras. As I mentioned in the last podcast about dating, that one was simply called 10 More Minutes on Dating. This is another 10 minutes on dating. Dating has always been confusing, as I noted. It's never been easy. It's never been simple. I myself made a note of this today on Threads because, again, grown man spending too much time on social media, that's the millennial curse. I made the point that I thought was rather funny in the moment. I don't know if it's as funny now, but the point was simply, is she being polite or is she flirting? Spin that wheel, my friends, spin that wheel. And part of what makes dating so difficult is just that dynamic, right? Because generally speaking, people like to be friendly. They like to make friends. Having a community is a good thing. Being in community with each other is a good thing. Hang on. There's a weird spot on my table. Damn. Well, now you've gotten to see where my ADHD brain is going today. Anyways, spin that wheel. I'm making the point of spin that wheel because it's people like to be in community with each other, whether that's dating or being friends or game nights or whatever. And even just being pleasant. Like, if you're around people, most individuals don't default to being assholes. Most don't default to it. Some do, for sure. And I don't know why they default to that, because there's no reason. That was just me moving a book and I'm rearranging the table while I'm talking to you. I don't know why. I don't know why some people's default mode is asshole, and most of that has to do with some deep pain they've suffered at some point in their life, and we want to have some sympathy for that. But generally speaking, most people tend to be very nice individuals. The thing that comes in that makes it difficult is that for young single people such as myself young. That's why the beard fell off. I was trying to make myself look younger. And I think I've succeeded, although my voice has now defaulted to kind of an old man staccato and timbre. But regardless, dating is tough when you're also, generally speaking, around people who tend to be friendly. Because are they flirting or are they just being polite? Some people have a very flirtatious style of talking. And I say flirtatious. Describing someone's speaking style as flirtatious, I think, is also sort of a product of a bygone era of thinking, when the default for humans was to find someone to date. Right? We got married at a much younger age on average. We had kids at a much younger age on average. And the default was, oh, you probably should be married or at least in some sort of long term relationship by the time you're 30. The default is that you're looking for a dating partner if you're talking to a member of the opposite sex. This was in that era, LGBTQIA. This was in the era before you guys were fully recognized as a community. I'm sure you were also looking for your partners of choice, but I have very little experience with that. I do not have the data to back it up. And by data, I mean the data I've made up on the spot as I'm talking. So for the sake of it, since I'm making up the data as I go, why don't we just say you guys were looking for your partners of choice as well? That was the default. People were looking to be married at a younger age. How true that was, I don't know, but that was my experience. And when you do that, the default is a flirtatious style of talking, because you never know who you might meet, who might be the next your husband. I don't know. Your husband, your wife. It's not the case nowadays. Nowadays, it's much more likely for men and women to have friends who are members of the opposite sex and to just be friends, for there to be no romantic tension between them. And the only problem with that is we don't wear signs on ourselves that say there is no romantic tension or not seeking romantic tension. One person could be flirting their butt off and the other person may have no idea. That's the issue, as though this is some sort of world-shattering issue, as though like the United Nations needs to get involved. No, it's not. What do the kids say on TikTok? It's not that serious, or it's not that serious. It's not that deep. That's what they say. It's not that deep. It's more just a funny anecdote to highlight some of the difficulties in trying to date. Modern world, in the world, just sort of my experiences with trying to date is that how do you decipher when somebody's being nice and when someone's flirting? The answer really depends on, well, you could just ask, but that's too easy. Because if you just asked, you stand the risk of embarrassing yourself. And possibly, if they really were feeling awkward, possibly embarrassing them, right? You could justify that way to yourself. But this sort of dynamic is a journey only suffered by one of the people in the conversation. It's a little bit of a prisoner's dilemma, because you have two people, both of whom have preferences, neither of whom is going to accurately communicate their preferences, but they both know their preferences for sure 100%. So it's a 50-50 shot. You might have been getting flirted with. You don't know. But the only way to know is to ask. That's the only way to know for sure. The other way is to say to yourself, well, I'm just going to for sure flirt back, and then they'll get the hint. My advice to you younger men out there, they never do. They never get the hint. You young ladies out there, if you're flirting your butt off with a guy, no, he's not getting the hint. He may like you, but he ain't getting the hint. I've rambled for 10 minutes on this topic. This is far too long to spend on this topic, and I've spent 30 minutes on this topic at this point. We'll probably come back to it again because, I don't like talking about dark stuff all the time. Sometimes I like to do something that makes me laugh. This makes me laugh. I want to say thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the channel and stuck around, because you have patience that many don't. I appreciate you, and I love you, and I respect you. I don't know you well enough to really love you, but it's something that people say on the internet. If you want to join the 14 people who have subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. If you don't want to subscribe, well, I can't say I blame you. There's a lot of nuggets of wisdom that go up here, but you don't want to be wise, and that's fine. That's fine. It's fine by me. I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Have a great night.